Hey Booksy, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about my summer TBR. These are some of the books that I'm going to be showing you and telling you about in this video. I'm going to call this my summer TBR as opposed to my July TBR because even though I'm going to try to read as many of these books as I can in July, I know I probably won't be able to. So some of them are going to be pushed on to August and maybe even beyond. I'm going to mention I think about 23 books here today. My goal is to read about 20 of them this month. Last month I read 11 books. This month I'm going to try to almost double that number. So let's see if we can do it. I'm going to show you the books. I'm going to tell you why I'm reading them. I'm participating in a few reading groups and reading challenges and readathons this month. First two books I'm not going to show you the titles because I'm going to be using these two to judge the BookTube prize. I'm a judge for this current round and I have 2 books left to read. I want to read them. I have to read them this month. The ballots are due at the end of July. So I'm not going to show you the titles yet because I want to keep my judging a little bit of a secret. When I've completed my ballot, I'll make a video where I talk about all the books that I read for this round and how I came to my ballot, how I came to my votes. So for now, I won't tell you the titles. And when I talk about these books on social media, I'll tell you that they're secret. So just know that there are 2 books on my TBR that I'm not going to tell you what they are yet, but they're there. I'm also going to continue reading aloud Maya Angelou's second memoir, Gathered Together in My Name. So this is on my TBR, even though I'm reading it aloud here on the channel because I haven't read the book before. And I'm reading it aloud here, but it's also my first time reading it, so I'm counting this as a book that's on my TBR. The next 5 titles are previous Man Booker winners that I need to read in order to catch up with my Man Booker reading challenge, where my goal is to read all the previous winners this year. So I have Michael Andante's The English Patient to read, The Remains of the Day by Kazuo Ishiguro, Rites of Passage by William Golding, The Bone People by Carrie Hulme, and The Old Devils by Kingsley Amis. So these are 5 Man Booker winners that I'm hoping to get to this month. There are other Man Booker winners, but they meet other challenges. So I'm going to talk about those in that category. I have 2 books that I need to read in order to review for the publisher. The first is Last Summer by Carrie Lonsdale, and I also have Summer by the Tides by Denise Hunter. These 2 titles are books that I'm going to be reviewing on my blog in July, so I'll need to read them in order to write a coherent and full review about them. Next 2 titles are books that I'm going to be reading to participate in Beautifully Bookish Bethany's Patreon book club. I'm one of her patrons and a group of us are going to be reading The Bride Test by Helen Huang. And so because I haven't read Helen Huang before, I'm also going to be reading the first book, which is The Kiss Quotient, because I hadn't read that, and The Bride Test is kind of a sequel. I understand that they both could be read as standalones, but I feel like I'd rather read this so that I'm not spoiled for anything if I ever decide to read this in the future. So I'm going to read this first and then read The Bride Test. I got this one from the library and I've reserved The Bride Test. It hasn't come in yet, so hopefully it will come in time so I can read and discuss for Bethany's book club. The other 2 books are from my book club, the Runwright Reads book club. We're trying to get back to that, so there's a schedule. And in July, we should be reading 2 books. The first is Saul Bellows' The Victim. The next is Graham Swift's Last Orders. I'm also using this book to participate in a challenge called Book Challenge by Erin, which is a Facebook group. And there are 10 prompts that I need to meet for books that I have to read between July and October. So this book is for the book club. It's also for Book Challenge by Erin. The goal for that book challenge was to use some of my Man Booker winners in order to participate, but I don't have all the books that I have chosen in order to meet the prompts for that book challenge yet. So I'm going to show you some of the others. I'm going to be reading Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants by Anne Brasheris. I hope that's how her name is pronounced. This is to meet a prompt where you read a book that has an item of clothing or an accessory in the title. Pants are an item of clothing. Then I have to read a book that has rain or thunder or lightning in the title, and I have History of Rain by Neil Williams on my physical TBR. This was shortlisted for the Man Booker Prize a few years ago, and I've owned this copy for a couple of years now, so it seems like a really good time to read it. So I pulled it up. Then another challenge is to read a book about a human with superpowers. And I asked Bethany from Beautifully Bookish Bethany to give me some ideas of books that I could read that might fulfill that requirement. And she suggested a couple of books. but I found the Tesla Legacy synopsis to be the most interesting to me. So the Tesla Legacy by K.K. Perez is supposed to be about a girl who is researching Nikola Tesla, who's a physicist, and somehow his electric powers, I think she acquires them, I don't know, but I'm looking forward to reading this one because it's about a young girl in science, which is something that I'm always here for. And then the next three are books that I've mentioned before. I've been wanting to read these books for a couple of months now. I've had them out from the library for a while. I've renewed them, and I think that I might not be able to renew them again, so I'm trying to read them, especially this week. I'm trying to read them. One of these is on my TBR today. The first one is The Editor by Stephen Rowley, and the next is There's a Word for That by Sloan Tannen. I'm hoping to read those in the next couple of days. Those are from a challenge where I did a page 112 tag with new releases, and I'm still waiting for the third of these three books to come in so I can officially make my choice about which one to add to my library, if any. So far I've reserved these from the library, so I want to read them before I absolutely have to return them. And the next one is a book that I got from the publisher. I thought I'd gotten it in order to review from the publishers that I usually work with, but I think this one was sent to me unsolicited, so I'm still going to read and review it. I didn't read it in June because I was a little pressed for time and I didn't have a deadline, so I'm definitely going to try to read it in July. There are a lot of challenges to read books that are inspired by Jane Austen. This is inspired by Pride and Prejudice. It's supposed to be a Pride and Prejudice in Pakistan. The title is Unmarriageable by Sonia Kamal, and I was hoping to read this in June for Reading Women Month. I didn't get to it, so I'm gonna see if I could read this one in July so I can finally review it and say thank you to the publishers who sent this to me. This one came to me from Ballantine Books. I didn't know that I was on a mailing list from Ballantine Books, so I want to read this and review it so they can send me more free books in the mail. That would be great. The next couple of books are ones that I reserved from the library. First one is A Blame It on Robert from Barter Hordes. He's been raving about this book. He said drop everything that you're reading and get this book, so I reserved it. It came in. I want to read it pretty soon. And then I can't remember who I heard talking about this other than Kayla from Books and Lala. I know she read and raved about this one, but I don't usually request books just because Lala loves them, so I'm not sure who told me to request this one, but I did. Love from A to Z by S.K. Ali. Doesn't really sound like the usual kind of book that I would request, but I requested it. It came in from the library, so I'm gonna read it, or at least I'm gonna try to read it in July. Other books that I'm going to be reading, I have The Land of Green Plums by Herta Müller. I ordered a copy. That is to participate in Britta Bowler's Noble Women Read Along, and I feel like there's another book, but I just showed you 21 books and mentioned two others: the Read Along for Britta Bowler's channel and the official book club book for Bethany's book club. So those are 23 books that I just mentioned. I don't know how many of them I'll get to in July. You'll have to come back at the end of the month when I do my TBR revisit and see how successful I was in sticking to my reading plans. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Subscribe if you want to see more. Let's talk in the comments. Let me know what's on your TBR for July or for the summer months. And let's talk down there. Until next time, happy reading. Bye.